Ever feel like you're doing this teaching thing alone? You don't have to be. Shared teaching is all about sharing the workload through the power of collaboration and teamwork. Together, we'll walk through all the difficult parts of teaching and learn how to streamline our processes, fine-tune our time management, and develop a more manageable workload. If that sounds like a dream come true to you, then welcome to the Shared Teaching Podcast. Let's share in the teaching to make those dreams a reality. Now here's today's Shared Teaching. Hello and welcome back to the Shared Teaching Podcast. I'm your host, Susan, and I am so thrilled you are here listening to another episode. This is number 76, where today we're going to talk about how to integrate writing across all subjects if you are in the primary classroom. So my specialty is K2, so I tend to gear a lot of my information towards that. So if you're in another grade, welcome. Hopefully some of this will apply to you, but just know that that is my focus. Okay, so when I heard the news, when they released the new schedule for next year's minutes, I was pretty disappointed because my school district, which is a pretty large district, decided they are no longer going to have explicit writing time, but instead, they're expecting teachers to embed their writing across the content areas. And the first thing I thought of was, of course, as K2 teachers, how in the world do you get these students learning how to write without having a specific time to teach them how to write, to teach them what a sentence looks like, what a paragraph looks like, capitals, punctuation, grammar, just different kinds of genres? How do you do all of that and still embed writing across all subjects? I think the district is crazy, personally. I think this is a backwards turn. I really wish that people that made these decisions were actually teachers, because they're just doing a disservice. They want the push to be on students improving their writing and their reading and their math skills, but they're not really helping us in ways that we can get them where they need to be. If you take away the writing block, what's next? Are we not going to have a reading block either? It's ridiculous to me. Writing is already such a neglected subject, and it's one of the most important skills all of us need to have besides reading, right? It goes hand in hand. You cannot be a functional member of society and you're lacking extremely poor writing skills. Okay, maybe you can be depending on your trade or profession, but still, you feel me, right? We need writing instruction. We just need it. But I sat down, I was thinking about it, and I asked myself the question, how can you still integrate writing when you don't have a designated writing time? And this is important to me because if you're new around here, writing is my jam. I talk about it quite often. I love helping teachers become better writing instructors and produce better writing from their students. And so I just think we still need to find a way to make it important. Okay, so starting with that, why is it important to integrate writing? And as I mentioned, there's times that schools just don't allow a designated writing block, which is a shame, but we kind of have to work around it, right? So kindergarten, first, second, and even third grade students really need explicit writing instruction. These are the years that we're introducing them to different writing genres and teaching those foundational writing skills. So they really need direct instruction on it. But by learning how to integrate writing, we can still provide writing instruction to our students. It might look a little bit different than a traditional writer's workshop format, but it can still provide our students with practical writing skills. Much of the writing your students will be doing in the coming years in school can be taught in these early primary years. which is kind of scary to think about. Like, we hold a lot of responsibility in our hands in these early primary years. So if you're not very familiar with Writer's Workshop format, I do want to share that you should listen to episode 39. It's called What is Writer's Workshop? And I kind of walk through the ins and outs of what that looks like within my classroom. Okay, so benefits to integrating writing across subjects. There are many, and I'm only listing 4 here. The first one is improved critical thinking. When students are writing to reflect on their understanding in math, science, or reading, they are analyzing information and making connections between concepts. They're also showing you what they know. Okay. Another benefit is better communication skills. As students write more and they're writing across concepts, they're learning how to organize their thoughts, how to express their thoughts clearly, and present their side of an argument. A great example of this may be to have students choose a character or event from a story and explain why it's a great example of insert some kind of literary device here. For younger students, it might just be a short paragraph or a couple sentences on their favorite part of the story and why. Just get them thinking and reflecting on maybe a read aloud that you had and ask them to write something quickly afterwards. Okay. A third benefit is increased engagement. If students are excited about a writing assignment that takes a real-world approach or it has a personal experience for them, they become more invested in the assignment. They're willing to work harder at it. They want to get it finished and accomplished. They want to share it. And the fourth benefit is that there's a transference of skills. When students are writing for a variety of roles and audiences across content areas, they learn writing is necessary throughout the school day. Students learn to adapt their writing for the type of audience, which is an excellent skill they will need throughout their life. Okay, so when I talk about roles and audiences, that is an older style of a writing assignment called RAFT, R-A-F-T. Okay, so RAFT is what is the role of the writer, the audience that they're writing to, what is the format for the writing, and what's the topic that they're writing about. I've also seen it where it's added an S to it, but I've always just done RAFT, especially with first grade. This is how I first learned how to write with my first graders. So it's a great thing to look up and to kind of get to know a little bit more about, because it is a really great tool, especially it's an easy one to insert across different content areas. Okay, so now that we know why we want to integrate writing, how are we going to do this? So since the news of losing that very specific writing time in the upcoming school year, I've been bouncing ideas around my head, just trying to think, okay, I'm not going to be a second grade teacher next year in the school building, so it doesn't affect me directly, but it does affect my colleagues and it does affect what I'm teaching. So I really wanted to kind of solve this problem. So I've been thinking about it a lot the last couple weeks when I found this out. And I feel that even though they're saying to integrate writing lessons, within K2 classrooms, I feel like you still need to have very specific writing lessons. If you're asking students to write up the steps from their science experiment, they still need to know what letters need the capital, where they need to put ending punctuation, what a sentence even looks like. There's a lot of things that go into just writing up that science experiment, right? There's all the behind the scenes, if you will, of what they need to know in order to actually write those sentences, unless they're just copying from the board. But we want them to become independent writers, so how are we going to get them that way? So first, I suggest planning the specific writing skills your students need to know within your grade level. What do the writing standards want them to accomplish? What skills are needed to be successful in the standards? Next, you're going to look at the anchor standards for your core subjects. So if you use Common Core like I do, then there are anchor standards within each subject, and you can look at those. Those are kind of the big idea pictures that are going to tell you what your students should know by the end of the year. What skills are they going to need to be successful? We are also going to look at any themes. If we look at the reading standards, is there a specific genre they are learning in your grade level? So maybe just in second grade they're learning poetry, or maybe they're introduced to folk tales. Now we are going to try to marry the writing skills with the course subject themes. Can we put these together? Can students learn about folk tales and have to learn not only the components that make a folk tale, but maybe write one for a culminating project? Wherever the content of the writing can work with a course standard, we will want to integrate writing. Don't be afraid to find small pockets of time to teach specific writing or grammar skills. These are still incredibly necessary to teach, and I can't stress that enough. I would also recommend teaching them in a quick 5 to 10 minute warm-up before moving into your main lesson. Maybe even look at pre-assessing your students and teaching some of these skills during small groups or center rotations. And I talk about that a bit more in episode 71, which is how to differentiate writing instruction. So you might want to also take a listen to that episode. If you think about your teaching day, there are many opportunities for students to write. By being intentional with your planning, you can integrate writing more thoughtfully to teach students to write in a variety of genres. Also keep in mind that a writing assignment or an assignment that requires writing does not have to last for a large chunk of time. Writing assignments such as the folktale writing could be broken apart into different sections and taught across several days. While being told to integrate writing rather than having a true writing block can be a challenge, there are ways to still have your students be amazing writers. All it takes is careful and thoughtful planning mixed with a healthy dose of creative problem solving. So I want to know, what are your favorite ways to integrate writing across your core content? As always, you can leave me an email, susan@sharedteaching.com. And if you have any ideas for future episodes, then go ahead and visit the show notes where you can click on Make a Podcast Suggestion Form and make a suggestion for me. Do you want to be a guest? Do you have an idea? Do you have a comment? Or maybe you just have a question that you really want me to answer. So go ahead and take a look at that suggestion form, and that's an excellent way to get the content that you are looking forward to that's useful and helpful to you. So I hope this was a helpful episode to you, and you can look at how you're going to integrate writing within your core content subjects and maybe just give the students an added extra practice time as you look at different ways that they can write throughout the day. All right, thank you so much for listening. Stay tuned next week for an all-new episode. Bye for now. If you've loved this show, then join me in sharing the teaching,
hitting that subscribe button,
and leaving us a review on
iTunes,
so we can be found by more teachers like you who are ready to start sharing the workload. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. Find new episodes each week on sharedteaching.com. Thanks for listening to the Shared Teaching Podcast. You can look it up. I don't have an article on it yet, but there are many good quality blogs out there that do. And basically what you're doing is you're having the students talk about who they're writing to, what's the role this writing is going to play. Is it going to be like an interview style? Is it going to be a fiction story? Who's the audience they're writing for? And I'm drawing a blank on the other ones. Of course I am. Isn't that how it always goes, right when you're in the middle of recording something? So, but role, audience, I'm not sure.